Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jim and Sam Town Square. Today, we're recapping week 4 of May 2023. I'm Scott King. Jim and Sam fans know me from the Forbes articles, and I'm joined, as always, by multi-Emmy award-winning television producer Chris Cangilla. Chris, we got to start. We were talking before the show. We have a lot of thank yous to bestow upon Troy from doing an awesome 2-part interview with us. We had 2 episodes, and I'm lucky enough to interview a lot of celebrities for Forbes and put those videos on YouTube. I have never seen so many positive comments about an interview, and so many people checked it out and said they're going to watch all our other episodes. I mean, it was just so awesome to kind of see the aftermath of everything.
Yeah, it was really nice. And of course, the great shout out we got from the team and the guys on the show. But yeah, the fans, it's really cool because, we're just 2 regular kind of guys. I mean, yeah, we have a little bit of experience in the business, but no, we're just fans. And to get that connection with the rest of the fans and share the stuff that we like we said before, I don't know everything. I'll get stuff wrong. But there's still this, kinship, if you will, with us kind of liking the show and sharing that with them.
Well, Troy said we're super fans, and we definitely are. And, we always talk about how Monday, it feels like it's the best show, and they were off and running again this week on Monday. This time, Jim kind of talked about something that I feel, and I notice all the time, is that he got caught up late Sunday night. We know he has the sleep issues. We'll get into that later. He got caught late Sunday night watching Casino. He found it at a certain spot, had to watch the whole movie. And this is an interesting debate because I might tend to argue that I like Goodfellas a little more than Casino. And I think that I kind of would rewatch that more on TV, and I love Casino and do the same thing. But for me, I like Goodfellas a little more. How about you?
If I had to watch both of them and it's we're going to rewatch them, I would get caught up in doing Casino just because there's just so many other facets. Is that the right word? Who knows? Yes. Of the show, of the movie. But yeah, I like them both, like you said, and you can get sucked into it. There's a podcast that I listen to, Bill Simmons does. It's called The Rewatchables. And that's where they kind of go and they talk about exactly what we're talking about. What's a movie that you're walking by the TV or you just flip through and you have to stay, you have to watch it, and what's the most rewatchable scene and all those kind of things. And Casino and Goodfellas definitely qualify.
Yeah, I think it's a fair argument. Casino, the way it's pieced together, you kind of don't know where you are and what's going to come next. So 2 just fantastic Scorsese movies with De Niro. And I was lucky enough to interview De Niro, and that story came out on Thursday. If anyone wants to check it out, there's a YouTube interview on this page if you're watching on YouTube, and also a Forbes article. So please check that out. He was awesome. And in the Forbes YouTube video, he may have even mentioned a Mr. Jim Norton. So definitely check that out. And speaking of Mr. Jim Norton, he might have had some very special guests at his Pennsylvania show last weekend. Chris, who was that?
He had 2 TEFs in the audience, I believe. Yeah. The TEFs went up and checked Jim out. And we were told that the TEFs gave his comedy show their seal of approval. So he has a 2 TEFs seal of approval there in Bethlehem, PA, I think.
It's pretty valuable to get the TEF seal of approval there. Also over the weekend, our condolences to Sam. He had to fly out for a family funeral for a cousin. So sorry to hear that news. We got another shout out, which was outstanding. And then we kind of heard about a term right before the shout out that the guys were debating what a third eye meant. And I'll let you go first, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for letting me kind of describe this to our listeners and viewers. Yes. So I always thought the third eye was something that was more of an Asian thing, Indian Asian thing, where it's right in the middle, and I thought that was what that signified on their forehead was the third eye. But there's an argument on the show that it was either let's just clean it up, either number 1 or number 2.
The where the number 1
goes and where the number 2 goes. Yeah. And those were the third eye. And I don't know. I think it led to something that we figured out, and we'll get to that in a little bit of what the third eye is going to be for us.
Yes. And I agree. I think now after cleaning it up, I think of yoga. Like Troy does hot yoga. That's when you'd always do this at the end.
Yeah, right.
So I think of that, but knowing what show I was listening to when they were talking about it, I went number 2 spot. That's just where my mind went. Number 2 spot for the third eye. And then Travis said maybe Troy was the third eye of the town square. Hard to argue after two incredible interviews he did for us, kind of back to back there. But maybe that will be. Go ahead.
He was our third eye when it comes down to it. So I think if we're lucky to get any other guests moving forward, that they will from henceforward be known as the third eye.
The third eye,
Jim and Sound.
Which kind of reports what's going on in the Jim and Sam studio. It's good to have an eye there. And
it could be wholesome, as we talked about with the forward third eye, or you could be a jerk and be one or two third eyes. We don't know. We'll find out.
Absolutely. And then after that, I think they got into a little bit of Arnold talk on Monday. I remember watching that documentary in college. We would watch it all the time and just crack up, especially when he was talking about what lifting weights is like for him and does for him.
That was the weirdest comment, and Montone shared it with us and agreed with him as well. But yeah, it was a weird thing of what the act of working out and lifting weights and going out there and posing it feels to him. And so we support that. And then they started talking about that movie. Have you heard about that?
It's a series.
Okay. Yeah. Because isn't that the one that you interviewed him?
Yes, thank you. It is. I interviewed actually like the whole cast. I interviewed him. He was paired with Monica Barbero, who kind of is rising to fame right now from a great job she did in Top Gun Maverick. And her dog actually crashed the interview. A good watch there on YouTube, where you can read the Forbes article. And yeah, it's a series. I watched the first few episodes were cool because it kind of goes back to like the action movies Arnold was doing in the 90s. So I thought it was a lot like that. Really on par there. And that was it was like over 10-minute interview they gave me. Arnold was awesome.
And that's up on your YouTube page too?
Yep.
The same page?
Yep, right here. People are watching.
Very good. Cool.
Yeah, thanks. And after that, we might have somebody possibly going back on something they said a while ago and never getting a blue check mark. But Sam seems very intrigued by the 2-hour video that Twitter seems like they're going to start allowing.
It was a day-to-day, though. The day that he mentioned it, I think it was Tuesday, that he was interested in, and even prefaced it by saying, I might be going back on my word to do this because he wants to do the 2-hour video. But after, and we'll talk maybe a little bit about this, after the meltdown that we saw with Twitter and them trying to go live for the DeSantis announcement, Sam may be retracting his steps a little bit and not really wanting to go for the blue check mark and release video on Twitter. I've never been verified. I think you were, or you are.
I was. I'm not going to pay, even if the videos. I like YouTube, but it was cool when it first happened. Like, oh yeah, and then like when you don't get a ton of followers right after, you're like, all right, I guess.
I know they mentioned it a lot, but Jim's 100% right, and now it's a money making thing. But before it was a money making thing, they should have had. Guys like us that are involved in the media should have a check for that.
Yeah,
maybe actors or celebrities or performers should have a check, a different color. Businesses, it's because you should be verified. You should be whoever you are and whatever business you do. You should be verified to comment, and it would keep a lot of the crap out of there, I would think.
Agreed, and I think maybe once things run a little more efficiently with Elon and a new CEO over there at Twitter and the Twitterverse, Sam might invest himself in a blue check mark to get that 2-hour video.
Let me ask you
question. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was wondering because, we're taping this right before the Memorial Day week, the Memorial Day holiday. And I got some sad news, and I think you got that same news, is that the boys are going to take off next week. And won't be on the show, and so I was a little disappointed in that. But everybody deserves a vacation. We'll have to take some sometimes, yeah, for sure. So, what are they going to do? I mean, I don't think I heard anything from Sam or Travis or Montone, but what's Jim going to do?
No, it's interesting. It makes me think. Usually, except from Jim, you hear when the other guys are planning something. Usually makes the air. So that makes me think there's a lot of staycations. Yeah. But here, I'm interested to hear what you have to say, your guess. But I think that this is a little reminiscent for me of Jim's trip to Iceland, where we heard nothing. We knew there was going to be a break, and he went on this amazing trip where he went like a natural spring hot tub, and I believe there was a type of museum he went to.
Yes,
on that trip. So I think he's going to go somewhere.
I'm going to disagree with you. I think he has nothing planned. I think his trips for work, and stand up he has this kind of mapped out, and I think he really was on the fence on where to go. and the guys had great suggestions. Go down to Orlando.
Yeah.
He should do a cruise. They leave out of New York. He should do a cruise. Have you ever done a cruise?
No, it's on my bucket list. I
definitely.
The Disney cruise looks good while our kids are young. That seems
yeah. I did one, and it was really enjoyable. And I like to eat. It's a great place to eat. But if anybody ever does a cruise, you got to fly down to the place the day before your cruise leaves, because that's scary if you're flying the same day before your cruise leaves. And of course, as you don't want to give Sam any more ammunition. You have to make sure that you get back to the boat on time when you're doing excursions, because he will laugh at you on top of you missing, the boat and probably some money.
You don't want to be in one of those YouTube videos he likes to watch when people miss the boat. So speaking of cruise, that was going to be my guess. This is a bold prediction. When I was a sports writer, editors would push us to do bold predictions. I think that Jim and his lovely lady are going to be on a cruise.
Yeah, I think so. I hope they do. I think he should. They've talked about it.
He's compulsive, and a lot of times we don't hear anything. So he's gonna pull something. A lot of times we don't hear anything from Jim. He's gonna pull something. He's a little compulsive. He likes to save stuff for the air. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe a cruise.
I agree with you. And you know what else? I can't remember another time where, and it's not my favorite part of the show, but I know it's an important part of the show, where we had some incredible poor callers. There were some callers that just made Troy and eventually Travis's life a little challenging.
That's the thing, though. They do, and a lot of them seem like they have no feeling or sense of the show they're listening to, but then they'll drop some references where you can tell they've listened a little bit. So the caller's a little baffling, and they get on Letterman Sammy. And they take it seriously.
There's one caller that didn't know and couldn't recognize the voices, so he thought, Travis answered the phone, and when Sam was talking, he wasn't sure who that was. He got the whole staff and host names all backwards, and I don't know. And Troy was getting upset. So of course, because Sam is the best stirrer in the business, what does he do? He gives out the phone number, which I don't think he has ever given out the phone number to contact the show.
He probably hasn't. I think Travis backed up. He hasn't. And not only everything you said about the callers, there was one caller who was on two different lines at one time. These people are nuts.
He called in. Yeah, he called in. They didn't like what he had to say. He called back when Travis was man on the phone, and he was on line 1 and line 2. So in case they want to go to him. So I'm glad they didn't go.
And if all these callers are JSTS fans, if they like to hop into the square here, we accept you. And
we have a lot more room, and you can get us all confused and call us names, which you probably do anyway.
Drop us some comments. Comments absolutely. If those callers. A little bit more. There's a radio controversy here involving the Chicago guy. They touched on a little bit, a producer for The Score here in Chicago, which is the big sports radio station. And that just got into, Sam did a great job of tying it to Seinfeld, which is a show I watch religiously.
For sure.
Where I had sex with your wife. That's basically what the guy said. I think it's about someone's mom. Mm-hmm. She wound up being deceased. He had to apologize. So another interesting radio folly.
It's I can understand how that gets happening. You just, it's like being around the comedy table, right? You just start talking and you start giving guys grief, and it just gets out of hand, and then you don't realize what you might have said, and you can't just do it in this day and age. And so, it's unfortunate, but it does happen.
Another unfortunate thing, and I want to dive into this. Jim talking about the video issues over at Sirius suggested that he is going to be done. He will not be signing a new contract. For everybody that doesn't remember, it seems, I believe, that their contracts will be up in October of 2024. So we got kind of like another year and a half from the guys, and you didn't hear anyone in the studio questioning him.
No, he seems
really too bad.
He seems real resolved to that fact. And, he said, I put in 20 years. It's not a personality thing with these guys. I'm just done, and I can understand that. It'll break my heart, of course, because I love the show so much. So it leads to the question, and we'll, be speculating on this. What happens to the show? Does Sam do it with, Travis or Troy or Montone? And is it that kind of thing? Or is there somebody else that slips in there? It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And if it does play out, or maybe, this is a new opportunity for, Sam to expand his Not Sam universe and do some other things.
It is. And we'll see how good a care Sirius would take care of him if they let him do the kind of show he wants, because Sam's got so much going on with his own YouTube show with WWE. So he's got a lot of options. He's not going to be hurting. And let me be clear. I think Jim is a sincere guy, as much as he jokes around and, can play dumb to a very funny way. This reminds me exactly of a few months before the Opie split. He said, come next contract, I'm done. I'm done. And he was
That's
done.
A little bit of different reasons why he had
for sure. But the way he said it.
Yeah, he set it up, and he's honest. If you listen closely, you do get the honest comments on there. What we got saved with a little bit in this sad talk is Jim was snacking, and of course, he snacks very oddly. He had some porridge, right? Was he adding something?
Night porridge? His girlfriend.
Late night porridge with some granola or something like that.
Yes.
That was his favorite snack. And then, got into a lot of other snacks. Do you have a favorite snack? Your go-to snack?
Favorites? I'm all over the place. Like I like Jim. I'm a compulsive eater. I try to watch it, try to exercise. I got to do more of it. But when I'm trying to eat healthy, I've been eating a lot of what Jim eats is the RX bars. Yeah. It's just peanut butter and whatever. Throw some figs in there. It's if you like peanut butter, it's not bad. So I have those. I have RX bars. I have I forgot what they're called, but these beef jerky bars that are pretty lean and pretty clean.
Yeah.
They're good.
So Jim and I don't share a lot of things other than our age and love of some of the things, but the snack that he was talking about is my go-to snack, especially that I'm trying to, watch what I'm eating. And I think I've lost about 20 pounds since we started this podcast. Awesome. I know all our viewers are tracking that, and I appreciate it.
We'll have to get Dr. Ian Smith on.
Exactly. But here is the thing that Jim talks about: Skinny Pop popcorn. I absolutely love it. It's delicious. It's organic, and it's like 150 calories for 3.5 cups of popcorn. 150 calories.
That's not bad. I will say it's a favorite snack of also my parents and my kids.
So you're saying I'm old and young at the same time. So I'll take that.
I'm saying you're super cool.
All right. Fair enough.
Great snack. All right. Speaking of snacks and selling these types of items in a grocery store, I knew comedian Greg Warren because when I was doing stand-up, when I was breaking into around like 2010, I was watching all the stand-up I could watch, like 2007 through 2010, around there. And his Greg Warren's Comedy Central special is one of the first ones I saw, and I thought it was great. And I wrestled when I was a kid. I think I heard he was a wrestler, so I was a fan of the guy.
Went to college and wrestled there. Yeah.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, he went to West Point for a bit. But hearing his story was interesting, especially this whole world of being the salesman to these grocery stores and what it takes.
Yeah, I really enjoyed. It was a different angle. I don't think we've ever had people talk about this stuff, and I didn't know about how you have to get stuff on the end cap, and if you can get stuff in the grocery stores on the end cap, it's going to do this and
make your whole year.
And then the store brands and how that's hard for the guys that are selling the brand names and whatnot. And so it was really cool to hear what he had to talk about. I think he was a rep for Procter and Gamble, and he was going through all the lines that he repped. And then they started talking about something that I remember so vividly from my youth. In the 80s, the Procter & Gamble logo was considered satanic. And of course, I was into, listening to Motley Crue and those kind of things, and Ozzy, and it was, and, I was a good Catholic boy growing up. So it was this conflict of what is this stuff and what am I listening to and so I had to find this logo, and it was on every one of their product. I printed it out. If you can see that, It has the stars and the man here. The man kind of looks satanic, but in this corner, where if you look right there, there's the 666 in his beard. It's hard to see, and that's what people thought in the 13 colonies and whatever. So it just reminiscent of the 1980s. All these things. It's like the kid that choked on died because he had pop rockets or whatever
rocks. Yeah,
pop rocks. Yeah. Mikey from Life Cereal was one of the kids. All these urban legends, and that was one of them too. And it actually cost them, Procter and Gamble, a lot of business. And I think Greg talked about where that came from and why that hurt their business. So yeah, he was a good guest.
He was, sure. And I assure you that little satanic Jimmy loves that logo. That's probably his favorite.
Yeah, I'm sure back in that day, since we're roughly the same age, he was one of the kids that actually probably printed it up like I did, but hung it on their wall.
Wednesday's show started by going over a big mishap by
Huge.
none other than Mr. Hot Dog. And in our last recap, we had given Sam a lot of credit for a great John Cena interview, which is a huge get. Looked great. He did a great job. And then, he goes to look at, what's going on social to promote it. And there is no watermark. I don't always do watermarks on my social videos, but you do like to show yourself like reacting. So if anyone cuts it and shares it without crediting you,
you're part of
your
the
face
scene.
is there.
Yeah.
I tried to do that. That wasn't done. And there was no like before, like an end card with his socials or anything before saying not Sam. So Sam was none too pleased with Hot Dog's work.
Rightfully so. I mean, he's paying Hot Dog to do this stuff. And then, of course, someone else picks it up like Sam feared and ran it and didn't give any credit back to Sam because he did a great job on that interview. And you should get credit for the things you like, the interviews you do. You had that great Arnold Schwarzenegger talking about his co-star's dog liking him and more. It was hilarious. And you should get credit for that kind of stuff because, it's what your work does. So, yeah, Hot Dog didn't perform as he's supposed to. And Sam actually kind of gave us an indirect shout out where he said, Hot Dog should probably be, ran into the town square. And
he's answering for it right now. He's answering for it in front of the masses in our town square. Here.
That's right.
But yeah, a folly. And as of Wednesday's show, Sam had said that video had 1.4 million views.
So we have something to work for here in this little town square.
We do. And so many people saw Hot Dog's incompetence with that.
Yeah.
Wednesday was loaded. My God, by maybe the two best breaks of the week here. You have Jim recapping his sleep study that happened Tuesday night.
Yeah, it was a topic all week. First of all, on Monday, he was worried about it. Tuesday, after the show, it happened. And then Wednesday coming in and talking about it. He had a little concerns about doing it. He did it once before. I thought it was very funny because he thought that he was, maybe you could Pooh Bear it and not wear underwear in there. And I was pretty sure that I did this same thing. So I did two. One, you go in for the sleep study like you do, but they just hook you up and they don't give you any masks and they recognize if you got sleep apnea. And, Jim was like, I do have sleep apnea when he did it, but
waste my time.
Yeah. So they had to figure that out. And then the next time they say, yes, you do come in and we'll fit you for different masks and whatnot. And I can show you the mask that I use. It's a nose pillow one. I'm not going to put it on all the way.
But at least put it on a little bit.
Yeah. There you go. That's a beautiful look. It goes right in your nose there.
This is our most visual show. I believe this is your third prop. Those
little things go right in the old nostrils, and it's soft and it blows. I can't sleep on my back. I have to sleep on my side.
Okay.
So this one allows because when you sleep on your side, the air goes through these things and it crushes it if you're on that one side. So it allows air to go on the other side. So I really like that one. But I hated it at first, just like Jim is. But I'll tell you what. I use it religiously. Going back to the cruise story that we talked about, I went with my family on a cruise and we're all in this one room, my wife, myself, and my three kids. And they just like, oh my God, he's going to snore. He's going to snore. And I didn't have it yet. So I'm so glad I have it now for all the other ones. And you can fly with your CPAP machine and it doesn't count as a carry-on. So I'm full of useless knowledge. But I use it
every night?
Every night. Yeah. Wow. It sucks. It sucks to have to do it, but I do feel a lot better. I sleep a lot better. Because if I fall asleep and take a nap during the day, you'll hear me snore. My wife's like, you're snoring, and that kind of stuff. So I don't have bad apnea, but I do snore a lot and wakes her up. So she's happy to have it. But you can see how attractive it is on me.
That's awesome.
That really doesn't help much.
What does it feel like when it kicks on as you're like starting to try to fall asleep? Does it everything just feel clear? Like you can breathe?
It's blowing air up your nose. So what makes it hard is when you talk, because the air is coming out of your mouth instead of, it's just a weird feeling. So if I have to speak, I have to take it off and talk before I put it back in. But you close your mouth while you're sleeping and it just keeps everything open and fine. And I don't notice it when I'm sleeping. It just, if I have to get up and go to the bathroom, I take it off and I go in the bathroom. But you track it and it's good. And I'm glad I have it. I wouldn't have answered that same question when I first started, but now in the same way, but now I'm glad I have it. So it's working. I hope it works out for Jim.
Yeah.
They talked about the incision where you have something that is like a pacemaker for this kind of stuff that you could get embedded in your chest. and trigger it that way. It's nice that you don't have to wear anything, but I think Jim was a little nervous about that. But Jim said if this new mask that he's going to get, if it works properly, he won't look into the surgery for it.
Yeah.
If the mask doesn't work, he's going to have to go into it. One last thing about this is that they keep on talking about these sleep studies. And like Jim was like, I'm going to take Ambien. I'm going to take this. I can't believe they let him take medicine that makes you fall asleep. I think they just want everything to happen naturally. And he also said, that they just really make it hard and make you answer a questionnaire and all that kind of stuff. And that was the funniest part about the questionnaire that he had to answer. You want to share that?
Yeah, Jim had to check that he has some bedwetting sometimes when he sleeps. I thought that was the funniest part. And maybe the runner-up was when he was first trying to fall asleep, how furious he was. He said, I was just laying there furious. Yeah. Because they made him put on the mask that wasn't comfortable at first, right? That's why.
Right. Yeah. And he had all the wires connected to you. And you have to lay there and there's no TV. I mean, there's a TV in the room, but they turn it off and you sleep on your back. I'm like, I don't sleep this way. And I can understand how Jim would be so furious about it. This is not how he sleeps. And plus, obviously because he's a poor sleeper, he has a hard time falling asleep anyway, especially when you're hooked up all that kind of stuff. So I wish him the best of luck. And I'm interested from a personal standpoint to see how he copes with it.
Hopefully you don't adjust yourself at the bottom the many times Jim did or anything similar to that. They were watching him.
I don't have to itch there as much, but
okay, that's good.
So okay.
There was some more UFO talk. We had an expert on, Troy, to give us the down low on that. If you haven't listened to the Troy episode yet, it's all the rage here in the town square. And then they went into on Wednesday something that I like when they bring up and kind of dissect it is what terrible marketing it is to go from, first of all, HBO Max, like that's what they called the app initially, and now they're moving it to just Max.
It was HBO Go back in the day, and because it was on the go, you can get HBO on your phone, HBO Go, and then they did HBO Max. And I'm like, I was confused that they did that in the first place when we went to Max because it was like Cinemax. You always had HBO and Cinemax. I'm like, that seems like are they partnering up? That's exactly what I thought was HBO and Cinemax. So now it's just the Max. And I'll tell you, I think it's idiotic. And I also got so many emails and whatnot because I am, of course, a subscriber that they was telling me like, hey, I'm a big fan of the West Wing. Hey, the West Wing episodes are going to be streaming on the Max. Yeah, I know, because they were streaming on HBO Max.
Yeah.
You're not telling me anything I don't know already. And so it's a really odd campaign, and I don't think it was very well executed.
No, and it's saying very little about HBO's success as an entity.
It's a brand.
It's a brand. Yeah. It's an amazing, colossal brand. You think Sopranos right away. You think all these fantastic shows and made for TV movies that won Emmys and Oscars, and man, just insane. But anyways, moving along here. Then we had a guest on Wednesday, Cryptaddy, a wheelchair comic who's made the most of his situation, that the guys enjoyed talking to, had some good questions for. But did they had good questions, or were some of the prep questions not very good?
That's
a good point. I think they might have had to wing it a little bit because maybe the prep was not all up to speed. In that, I believe I didn't have complete clarity as to who orchestrated this line of questioning. Was it Travis or Troy?
Yeah, I think Travis had it on the prep sheet to ask what kind of pizza you like. Pizza? What kind of pizza do you like? Like, Jim and Sam had a field day with it. Of course, it's pizza. Who doesn't like pizza? And that led to an unfortunate event because I thought we really made some inroads with Troy. Being our third eye and our guy now. He said Chicago pizza sucks. And I just think that's wrong.
We love Troy.
We do love Troy. I guess we can
go after him.
One of the favorite sayings is agree to disagree, and I hate that saying, as many people do, but I think we can let Troy slide on the Chicago pizza sucks comment because he was such a great partner with us on this show. So
agreed for sure. And my whole thing with that is when people from New York say that, New York is a slice of cardboard with a little sauce on it.
Yes, and you got to fold it so that the grease doesn't spill out. It's crazy.
Yeah, and people say Chicago pizza is like a casserole. Call it whatever you want. It has more delicious ingredients, so it tastes better.
Yes.
Yeah, everything's better. So sorry, guys.
And Chicago is known for being, the sausage king, the pork butcher for the West or for the country or whatever it is. So we're gonna have the best sausage pizza here. Sausage, right?
Yes.
All right. I know the sand is going through the hourglass rather fast for us here. So where do you want to go?
Let's see here.
How about this? We talk a little bit. We'll just mention some things. We'll go through our hits here. The DeSantis Musk Twitter interview thing was just ridiculous. It just didn't ever happen. It didn't go through the way it's supposed to. And the guys had fun kind of making fun of how it just is dead air and things weren't working and the frustration that they were having. Of course, Troy was coughing a little bit on Thursday, and the boys were worried about him being part of, maybe having COVID. And I don't think people are really scared about getting sick for COVID, but if you get it and something gets closed down or you can't do it, and Jim I think he had a legitimate argument. Sam does too, but Jim can't go work. He can't go do clubs, and Sam probably can't go do the wrestling stuff he needs to do if he, test is positive. So it's cutting into that. So Troy wasn't in on Friday, and we weren't sure if that was because he might be sick or maybe another reason. Do you remember what that other reason might have been?
Other than heading to Florida, I don't believe.
Maybe he went to Florida a little early.
There we go.
That's what they said. But I, in my detective work, I did see, and he could have done this later, but I did see Troy post something late on Friday afternoon from LaGuardia that he was, heading to Florida from there. So
there we go. Okay. So we think we got to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
You know what? They had Paul Verzian Thursday. Always a great guest. I think Paul has become like arguably the new best regular comic they have on. He fits the show so great. He's either all fired up or just has a great way of looking at things through his own perspective, which he does with parties. The parties he throws at his house with him and his family. And he has a certain etiquette, and people aren't invited back. I was kind of joking with this about my wife, that we should be utilizing similar methods. And that led to the duck and goose soiree being talked about. And there might be a new set of rules, one being that if someone brings a child to the duck and goose soiree, Jim is allowed to beat them if they touch the Black Sabbath poster.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. You have younger children, so it maybe hurts a little hard. Yeah, my children are grown, so I can bring them anywhere. But yeah, he talked about maybe making your guest list more like a fantasy football draft where you're going to pick, and have the right team, right? You're going to have a good kicker and a good receiver, a great quarterback. They got to be able to mesh. And he does bring some really things forward that is important to make sure that guests mesh at a party. And he had some great advice for them. And the pizza question came up. They asked him about the pizza question, and of course it fell silent, which means that was horrible prep work. But they ended up.
I don't know. I thought Travis thought that Paul proved their topic right because he was a little fired up and getting into it.
And Sam said, "Yeah, that's just Paul being very good guest. Paul being able to take great crap and building, making." Lemonade out of crappy lemons. But all right, so we should probably kind of wrap this up and get to our guest of the week since we're talking about Paul and some of the other stuff. Do you have a guest of the week?
Yes, I do. I think that with Greg Warren's way of describing what goes on in the aisles and selling items to stores, that whole just world he opened up because he's such a good storyteller. Greg Warren is my guest of the week, and our other choices would have been Cryptaddy, Paul Verzi, and Bob Kelly called in also.
Yeah, and we'll see if we have time for the Bob Kelly story. Hopefully we will at the end of this. But yeah, I will agree with you. Just because Greg brought something that we haven't heard much about, and I absolutely loved it. Paul was a great guest, always is. It's kind of like, when the award winner always keeps on winning an award, you want to give it to somebody else. But I got it different to Greg because Greg did a great job. Let's do this. Let's do line of the week, and then we'll see what we have time left for and finish up there. Do you have your line of the week yet?
Line of the week. You know what? I loved it so much when Travis called Troy our third eye. That kind of factors into my line of the week.
I think that's a great line of the week, and it helps our cause a little bit. I do have two quick ones here. We're talking about callers calling in, and the guy called in about a poop story he had, and he had to go really bad and couldn't hold it anymore, and he was across from a school, and he stated, my pants were down in front of an elementary school, and it's not going to be a very good look. And Jim goes, tell me about it. So you have to read between the lines. But my favorite one was another Jim line. Sam was at the beginning of telling a story about his dad and his sister. Remember, they went to Detroit for the funeral of their loved one. And he was telling a story about his dad. And he started out by saying, my dad made the mistake of a lifetime. And Jim interrupted him so quickly and said, yeah, he did. So those are my two line of the week.
That's great. Those are great.
We got about 2.5 minutes left.
Yeah, let's get into Bob Kelly. So
yeah, he called in, right?
Called in while Paul Verzi was on the show because they have a podcast together now. I believe called Bona Pick, and Jim had a Bona Pick with Bob because late April, Jim realized he had never been on the bonfire. Bob's on the bonfire now. Asked him if he can go on. In my opinion, Jim Norton should never have to ask to go on anything, especially something his friends are doing, especially on Sirius XM radio. That's neither here nor there. And Bob said, hey, we have this bit we're going to do. Would you like to come do it? Jim said, of course. So now we're in late May. Jim hasn't heard back, and he had a very valid point. And okay, if you guys are, for whatever reason, production-wise, waiting to do this bit, I'll wait. Like, why hadn't they just said, come on, you're in the building, just come on, come hang out. That has not happened. And I will say that I remember Jim has pointed out once, maybe twice, that Jay Okerson, I believe, hasn't done Jim and Sam. And the reason Jay gave is that it's a little early to be up. But, you look at all the legendary comedians that get up early and do it. No offense to Jay, but they find a way to come in, and all those comics certainly did on ONA too.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's any real controversy there. I hope that there isn't.
I'm not aware of any, or
any bad blood there. But yeah, Jim should always have the welcome mat out, and I think Bob tried to make that happen. He did have a little weird thing to say about you are always welcome, and Sam's like, well, what am I, chopped liver over here?
Right.
So, but that was good. And then, of course, real quick, we got 1 minute left. Jim had a code brown, a scary one right before the end of the show, and he had to do a quick check of the underwear to make sure he was fine. And Paul said, do you guys bring a change of clothes ever? I'm like, no, we just make a comedy out of it if we did. So it was a good week.
Ended the week with a code. I don't know what's after worse than brown, but it almost happened to Jim.
Yeah, it's a situation if you can.
Yes, absolutely. And just as they ended the week, we're going to end this show. And thank you guys so much for watching and listening. And thank you, Chris, for jumping on again.
It's my pleasure. I love doing this stuff. I know the guys are off next week, so we got to figure out what we're going to do for a show, but maybe we can get a third eye and join us here in the town square.
Thanks for watching and listening to the Jim and Sam Town Square. Please remember to like and subscribe and turn on that notification bell, not Doug Bell, so you don't miss an episode.
And if you're just listening to the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. We really appreciate it.